if we were to, okay, I'm going to draw the scenario out for you. We beat TCU this week. Are we in the Big 12 championship game?
I think with the way everything's going to fall, we will be. With especially with Oklahoma State losing to Kansas. As long as we win out and Kansas win out, or I mean TCU wins out, I think we end up there.
Who would be, I'm trying to think right now, if we were to beat TCU and TCU were to drop another game, would they still be in? I'm trying to think, like, I'll look at the standings real quick,
They
but
they have the tiebreaker on just about everybody.
yeah, let's see what their schedule looks like the rest of the way, because that does matter, obviously. They played Kansas State, have they not?
Yes, they came from behind to beat them, I believe.
Let's see. They play Baylor and then they play Iowa. Okay, so unless Baylor has only 2 Big 12 losses, does Baylor have 2 Big 12 losses? Let's see. They beat Albany. They lost to Oklahoma State's 1. They lost to West Virginia, would be 2. So no, if they beat TCU that week, we would play them. Well, no, because we played them last game of the season. So yeah, it's if we win this week, it's going to be a rematch. It has to be. There's no other possibility. So, if we win out, obviously. So yeah, so basically we know if we win out, we're playing them again. I don't. It's going to be hard to beat them 2 times in a row, wouldn't you think, D4?
Yeah, just schematically wise, Sonny Dykes ain't no slouch when it comes to offensive schemes. And, I don't know how well, I guarantee Gary Patterson's been working on this for weeks, helping to install this defensive game plan. But it's hard to beat a good team twice.
Yeah. Now there is a possibility Baylor beats TCU, and then we play Baylor and Texas final week of the season to decide that second spot in the championship. That would be a very intense game at that point. And it'd still be intense because Baylor doesn't like Texas, just like most teams of the Big 12. And they would come out guns a-blazing versus us in that game anyways, just to ruin our chance at the Big 12 championship. But TCU is, I mean, looking at their schedule, they're in the Big 12 championship. I don't know who they're going to play. They could play us. They could play Baylor. I think Oklahoma State is still in the running. I think no, they're out of it because I think Kansas would actually still be in the running. So, and that's the thing too. If Kansas could be playing for a Big 12 championship berth versus us, we could potentially be playing 3 weeks in a row versus a team trying to make the Big 12. We are going to be playing 3 weeks in a row versus teams that are trying to make the Big 12 championship. So it's going to be a hard last 3 weeks. It is. And I think this is going to show a lot of where Steve Sarkisian's tenure is going to go. I really believe if he goes 3-0 or 2-1, I think we got ourselves the right guy. I believe that. If we go 1-2 in this last stretch, I don't think he's the guy. I just don't. I don't see how, when the chips are on the table for all these teams and the intensity is where it's going to be, if you go 1-2, I just don't see you being able to lead the program forward after going 1-2 in those games, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're going to have to show me something to finish out this season. 3 hard games coming down the stretch, teams that aren't slouches. We are going to see what our defense is made of. We're going to see if he can, keep the gas on the pedal. We're going to see a lot. And, it's up to Sark, to get this team prepared and, scoring 31 points in the first half, that's all fine and well. But when you only score 3 in the second, we got to fix that, because if we get into a duel with somebody, like a TCU in the time when we rematch them in the Big 12 championship game, and you're Texas, of course, everybody in the country, given the opportunity, are going to give you everything they got because they're preying on your downfall.
Yeah, 100%. And just they're going to give you everything you got anyways. But now, I mean, that's crazy that I didn't realize this earlier, that all 3 of those teams, I mean, if they beat us, have a chance to play in the Big 12 championship. TCU basically is locked in if they beat us. Kansas, if they beat us, has a chance. So does Baylor. So it's going to be interesting. Like this is by far his biggest 3-game stretch since he's been here. And it's going to be all these teams gunning for us, not just because we're Texas, but because they have a chance at something we want as well. And you're going to get the absolute best shot from all three of these teams. And it's going to prove to me whether you can handle the best shot. And these, no offense to him, these are good teams. These aren't even the teams you would need to beat to win a national championship. So if you can't beat these guys with the amount, I mean, if you look up Kansas and Texas talent, it's not even close. Kansas probably has somewhere in the 40s to 50s in talent, maybe even lower. Texas is top 7 to 8 talented team roster wise in the country. Obviously, I knocked them down a little bit because transfers and stuff like that, which aren't really taken into account on some sites. But if you're telling me you have that much of a talent advantage and you have the same things to play for, you should be able to win that game. Period. End of story. I don't want to hear any excuses. TCU is a different animal. Like, I can accept if we were go 2-1, lose TCU, but beat Kansas and Baylor, fine. I'm cool with that. But you can't go 1-2. You can't lose to TCU and then lose to Baylor, Kansas. You just cannot do that. We go 0-3. There's no chance for redemption at all. Period. End of story. You might as well just fire him at the end of this year because that would make it 6-6. That's a 1-game improvement. With the amount of talent you added in the offseason, with the Big 12 being, obviously, it's the deepest league, but it's still down from an overall perspective because you don't have a great team. You got to do better than that.
Yeah, and another thing, we may be playing for a shot at the Big 12 championship, but we're playing for recruits, like I mentioned earlier. These battles coming up with these teams are detrimental. It could be detrimental to recruiting. Cedric Baxter, of course, taking his visit to Florida State. Them wooing him down up there. Jonte Cook is always a flip risk. Malik Muhammad. You know, uh, just these guys, let's get finish the season strong and get these guys like truly locked in. Let them see something that's being built instead of crumbling at the end of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And if you look at the teams like who we're competing against recruits wise, TCU is going to have a lot of competition with us for recruits. Baylor has a little bit, not a lot. But, I mean, those are two teams in the state of Texas you're going to compete with. So those are really important. I don't think there's many people that Kansas and Texas are going head-to-head on. But still, you're right. Recruiting is just as important.